Gilbrook.
Here.
Bynum.
Here.
Burrows.
Here.
Townsend. McKiernan.
Here.
Murguia.
Here.
Albee.
Here. As the clerk stated, our fire chief candidates have been invited to introduce themselves to us this evening. I'll turn it over to Administrator Bach for some opening remarks and to announce our first candidate.
Thank you, Mayor, Commission. Tonight I am pleased to present to you an excellent group of 6 candidates that we have advanced into our assessment center. This is a cumulative process that has gone on for several months, actually, as we work through this. It goes through a series of evaluations and interviews that we do to be able to get the candidates to the position they are in today. We're now in the second day of an assessment center that started yesterday. They've gone through a series of interviews with various people from within our community and professional staff. They've gone through oral exercises, written exercises, and various events to show their performance and how they achieve through that process. And our vetting process determine how they are. And with that, I'm ready to start moving through, and I will bring the candidates in. They will introduce themselves. They've been given latitude to present what they would like to. They're going to be limited to 5 minutes during this time frame, and we'll move from there. And then they will move on out, and the next candidate will come in. With that, I'm going to introduce John Rukavina.
They get to ask questions?
No, I wasn't planning that.
You can pop up.
John, you're welcome to go ahead and start now.
Thank you. Mayor, members of the commission, my name is John Rukavina. I've been a firefighter, a fire officer, and a fire chief, and I love the fire service. There was a period of time where I thought I was meant to be a lawyer, and I actually went to law school and became one. But I also discovered that my true passion was for the fire service, and I've been involved in that activity ever since. I will say, though, that my legal experience has made my job as a fire chief much easier. My first chief job was just up the river, actually, St. Joe, Missouri, just up the Missouri from here, so I learned a good bit about Kansas City while I worked in St. Joe. I was the first outside chief to work in St. Joe, and when I left 2.5 years later, I was the interim city manager. I went then to Asheville, North Carolina, in the mountains in the western part of the state, became fire chief there and worked there for a little over 13.5 years. Sorry. Where again, I was the first outside fire chief that the Asheville Fire Department had ever hired. And in 2000, I went to Wake County, North Carolina, which is the county where Raleigh and the communities around Raleigh are located, a population of about 1 million people. And I served as public safety director there. And I'm familiar with many of the things that Kansas City, Kansas Fire Department has done. I think they've been an exemplary EMS agency, and I would be proud to serve as your fire chief. Kansas City, Kansas has all the attributes I find desirable in a city in which to work. It's not a major metropolis. I had an opportunity to work in that setting in Wake County with a population of over 1 million. I much prefer an environment where I think I can have an impact, and I think Kansas City, Kansas is that jurisdiction. I'm also looking for a challenging work environment, and I know that there have been significant issues that the fire department and you as elected officials have dealt with, and I would like to offer my services in that regard. And finally, I would look forward to working with a group that continues to demonstrate its commitment to doing its best for the people of Kansas City, Kansas, notwithstanding any other issues that may arise. I think in the heart of every firefighter is the desire to do good and to help out in the community, and I continue to associate myself with that, and I would consider it a great honor to be able to do that here. Thank you very much for this opportunity to address you, and I hope you have a good meeting this evening. Thank you.
Our next candidate is Christopher Riley.
I'm not
Testing.
Welcome, Chris. Go ahead.
Hi, well, good evening, everyone. My name is Chris Riley. I'm a fire chief candidate for the position of fire chief here in the city of Kansas City, Kansas. I'm very, very happy to be here. I guess by way of introduction, I know my time is limited here, but I've got 36 years in the fire service. About the last 10 years of it was roughly 10 years as a fire chief, both in Pueblo and Colorado Springs. Chief officer for about 20 years, and I've been kind of thinking about what I want to share and what I stand for in terms of being a fire chief. The safety of the firefighters, of course, is paramount, and also the safety of the community by way of training and risk reduction and things like that. I'm a very firm believer in things like training and mentoring. I'm also a believer in the accreditation process that I've had a chance to talk to Mr. Bach about, and also Mayor Alvey, and what the benefits of accreditation are. And I'm also a very firm believer in the absolute importance that there's a healthy labor management relationship between fire management and fire labor. I've spent most of my career working in a collective bargaining environment, so I'm very familiar with that environment, working with a contract and things like that. And I also just want to say, before I kind of forget, I just want to thank Mr. Bach and his team as a candidate. I've been really kind of wowed by this process, the professionalism of it, and I've told my fellow competitors for the position that we've had a week of being a fire chief for a couple of days here in Kansas City, Kansas. There's not a tool in my toolbox I don't think I've used. My toolbox is empty. I'm maybe a little bit brain dead right now because of the week we've had. I hope I'm sharing everything I want to share. But thank you, sir, for inviting me here in the process. And I'm honored to be here. And visiting the firefighters at the station was great. You got some great group of firefighters here. They've got a very good reputation in terms of their professionalism, safety, how they fight fire. So it's a great fire department, great city, and I'm just happy to be here. Thank you very much, and happy to answer any questions you might have if that's appropriate. Is that part of this?
We're not doing that now. We'll do that in the lobby if anybody has any one-on-one.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the opportunity. Have a good night.
Next candidate is Michael Callahan. Hi, Mike. You can just go ahead.
Thank you. Good evening, and thank you for inviting me out. I'm excited about the opportunity and the challenges that this represents. My name's Mike Callahan. I'm from Chicago. I have almost 40 years in the fire service. It's exclusively with Chicago. I'm firefighter DNA. I come from a firefighting family, so it's in my blood. My father was a firefighter. I think I might have told some of you. In 1960, the Chicago Police and Chicago Fire Department both called my dad to come into their academies on the same day, one on Monday, one on Wednesday. The fire department called on Monday. He had 6 kids, so that's probably why I became a fireman instead of a policeman. I've served, like I said, exclusively with the Chicago Fire Department for my nearly 40 years in the fire service. I've ascended linearly through every rank that the Chicago Fire Department has, from all of the tested competitive ranks that are in the bargaining unit, as well as the ranks that are, we call it exempt. It's an administrative rank, an appointed rank. I was searching for a job because my wife is a police officer and she wants to retire. I'm going to retire from the Chicago Fire Department very soon. And I'm hoping, the deal my wife and I struck was I could continue on in the fire service because I believe my training certifications and education are still valuable, and I believe that I can impart some of that knowledge onto others. Historically, the fire department is known for mentoring. We began mentoring before mentoring was a word. That's how we trained those that came after us. So I believe that I can impart that here in KC. And I'd like to, my wife and I, as I said, we struck a deal. She doesn't want to work anymore, and I do. And so we had to, the agreement we came to was it had to be somewhere that was a smaller community with a lower cost of living and more opportunity for outdoor activities. And this place ticks all of those boxes for both of us. So again, I'd like to thank you for having me out and putting me through the process, and I'm excited about the opportunity.
Thank you. Next candidate is Jack Andrade.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners, Doug Bach, and everybody else who came to meet your candidates for the Kansas City, Kansas Fire Chief's position. First off, I'd like to thank Renee Ramirez and her HR staff. They did an excellent job in putting on this process on for us. It went tremendously well. Also, everybody else who participated, they took time out of their busy schedule, and I do appreciate that. I learned a lot over this last few days about myself and about other candidates that were in the process, and they did a fabulous job. It was nice getting to know them. I'm Jack Andrade. I'm the Senior Assistant Chief of Logistics for Kansas City, Kansas Fire Department, and I've been in the command staff for 3 years. And over those 3 years, I've grown quite a bit. I've learned a lot, and I've been able and fortunate to be in front of you the last at least 3 times over the last 3 years. So one thing with me, I'm the internal candidate, or one of those that is internal, and I know KCK Fire Department and the process that needs to take place to make them more successful. I understand the qualifications, the limitations, and the abilities of our command staff and everybody else below us. We do a fine job out there, and I know that we can be more successful in the future. I do have a 100-day plan that I'd love to share with you guys. If you're willing to see it, please feel free to email me, and I'll send it to you. I do appreciate your time. And again, thanks to Renee and her staff and everybody else. Have a great day.
Thank you, Jack. Next candidate is George Sheets.
Well, good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. My name is George Sheets, and before I get started, I want to let you know that I'm from St. Louis, Missouri, but I'm a diehard Kansas City Royals fan. I've been in the fire service for 36 years. I just retired in February after 22 years of being a career fire chief. So I've got a career history of success. My forte is labor management, bringing the 2 diverse groups together. I'm married. I've got a daughter that's 16, and she just called me and said, Dad, I found a car that I want. So probably on the way back, I've got to pick up that car for her. But I've got a son that's 23 who is a senior in college in Chicago, and he's majoring in graphic design. But I'm very happy to be selected as one of your finalists for this community. I've went around the community and seen 10 of the 18 fire stations, and I'm very pleased with what I've seen. You've got a very diverse organization. I'm very happy to see that the individual neighborhood groups have a lot of input with what goes on with the organization. So that shows me that they are engaged with the local government. But again, 36 years in the fire service. I've been very successful in my career, and I'm looking forward to this opportunity if selected.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our final candidate is John Dropwoman.
Good evening, Commissioners, Mayor, County Administrators. I'm John Dropwoman. I'm your current Fire Marshal. I'm truly honored to be here this evening, to know that you think that much of me and value my work ethic and leadership to continue this far in the process is truly humbling. When I started my fire service career in 1991, I never imagined even being considered for a fire chief. So if you can imagine that, it's been quite a shock to me. I think a lot of what's got me here is my attitude, my ethics, my morals, and that's all due to my parents, and I thank them. They raised me the way I am, to appreciate what I have, what's around me, and those around me, and make sure I serve them correctly. I try to instill that in my family, my daughters, and those that work with me, and I'll continue to do that as long as I serve this city. Why am I here today? I know that the fire department has had quite a few challenges over the years. Most of the members of the department that I work closely with, we've all been concerned that the leadership needs a change, a better direction. And a few of us were identified, and we took the challenge of going through this process to hopefully give you all what you want for this fire department. I know, Mr. Bach, you've got a big decision on your hands, and I'll tell you this much. From the past 3 days that I've been associated with these gentlemen that came before me, I've had my chance to kind of wadir them a little bit. I don't think you're going to go wrong with any of them. I think they all possess and have shown me the leadership you guys are looking for. So any of the five, or myself, I think is what you guys are looking for. So if that takes any of the stress off of you from your decision, I hope it does. So whatever personality you guys are looking for, you know, that's your easy decision, I think, whoever, you know, works most closely with you. But I think the 6 that you've seen are what you guys are looking for, and you've done a good job of finding them. If this is the end of my venture into this part of the fire chief's selection process, I thank you all very much. I still look forward to serving you as your fire marshal. There's a ton more work I want to get done. I plan on being back here in front of you all in a couple months. I got several more proposals to see you with. So thank you guys very much.
Thank you. Mayor, I will note that we will be emailing out summary packets of information on all the candidates so that commissioners have that information. If any of you are looking for, or if you want some information this evening, we can give you a hard copy so you can have that to cruise through as well. That concludes the formal introduction session as we had planned. The intent is that we have an open lobby session that you can go to. It's for informal one-on-one type session to be able to move through, to meet the candidates, to talk to them in more detail, or in groups, however you'd like.
We are adjourned until 7 o'clock.